Have you ever stood in the grocery store aisle looking at two nearly identical apples, one with a shiny organic sticker and one without, and wondered, is it really worth paying extra for this? You're not alone. A lot of us, especially after retirement, start thinking a bit more carefully about where our money goes. And when the cost of groceries keeps creeping up, it's natural to ask, are we spending smart or just falling for clever marketing? Let's face it, those little green and brown labels that say organic have become powerful. They make us feel like we're doing the right thing, taking care of our bodies, maybe even saving the planet in some small way. But here's the honest truth. Not every food needs to be organic. In fact, some are just plain not worth the extra cost. Others, on the other hand, really do matter when it comes to your health. And the difference is important, especially as we age and our bodies get a little more sensitive to toxins, inflammation, and long-term exposure to chemicals. So today, let's have a real, down-to-earth conversation. We're going to talk about 13 foods that you don't need to buy organic, because they're either naturally protected, rarely sprayed, or just labeled that way for show. And then, we'll dig into 10 foods where organic really does make a difference. Because let's be honest, we've earned the right to eat well, feel good, and not waste a single dollar. Now, before we get to the foods, I want to make something clear. This video isn't about making anyone feel guilty. It's not about judging your grocery list. It's about clarity. Because the more we understand what we're buying and why, the more empowered we become. Not just as shoppers, but as people who want to live a strong, healthy life in our golden years. Let's start with something that might surprise you. Salt. Yep, salt. You may have seen organic sea salt popping up in stores or online. It might sound fancy, but think about this for a moment. Salt is a mineral. It's not grown, it's mined or harvested from seawater. Bugs don't eat it. Farmers don't spray it with chemicals. So, what exactly is organic about it? Nothing really. It's just a marketing term. If you're looking for better salt, skip the word organic and go for quality instead. Pink Himalayan salt, Celtic sea salt, even Redmond or Baja Gold, those are the names you want to look for. They're rich in trace minerals and naturally harvested. That's what matters, not a sticker that makes it cost 80% more. Now let's move to the seafood section. You might have seen wild-caught salmon labeled organic and thought, well, that must be the best of the best. But here's the thing, how do you even control what a wild fish eats in the open ocean? You can't. That's the beauty of it. Wild fish live freely, away from crowded farms, synthetic feed, and the antibiotics sometimes used in aquaculture. So paying extra for organic wild salmon? That's another label with no real value. If it's wild caught and from a trusted source, you're already making a smart choice. You don't need the extra label or the extra cost. And while we're talking about protective barriers, let's talk about avocados. Beautiful, buttery, full of good fats. Avocados are a great food at any age, especially for heart health and brain function. But they've got something else going for them. A thick, leathery skin. That skin acts like armor, keeping pesticides from reaching the soft flesh inside. So even if avocados are grown conventionally, you're still getting a clean, safe fruit. Buying them organic isn't going to make them any healthier, it just makes them pricier. Same story goes for another food that's more mineral than plant, baking soda. It's not grown on a farm. It's mined or chemically produced. And you're not going to find pesticide residue in a box of food-grade baking soda. Yet somehow, you'll see brands putting organic on the label, hoping you'll feel safer about using it in your cookies or toothpaste. Truth is, if it's food-grade and aluminum-free, which most brands are these days, you're good to go, organic or not. Now, this next one really raises eyebrows. Organic mineral water. Yes, I've seen it too. But let's stop and think. How can water be organic? It's not grown. It's not sprayed with herbicides. If you're buying water for the minerals and purity, focus on that. Look for clean, tested sources, not labels trying to cash in on a trend. Whether it's sparkling or still, the word organic on water is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Okay, let's go a little nuttier, literally. Walnuts, pecans, macadamia nuts, and Brazil nuts. These all have something in common. Incredibly hard shells. That thick, protective outer layer does a fantastic job of keeping pesticides out. So unless you're eating the shell itself, which no one is, you're not getting much exposure to anything harmful. Buying organic versions of these nuts might make you feel better, but it won't change what ends up in your body. Better to buy conventional and spend that money on foods where the organic label actually matters. Let's keep going with that idea of natural protection. Have you ever tried to crack open a coconut? If you have, you know it's a serious task. That rock-hard shell is no joke. And it works. Pesticides simply don't get through. So whether you're buying whole coconuts, coconut milk, or coconut oil, save yourself the money. Skip the organic label unless the product is highly processed or flavored with other ingredients. And now, let's look at something green and leafy. Cabbage. Unlike spinach or lettuce, cabbage is tightly packed and often only lightly sprayed. Most of the pesticide residue stays on the outer leaves, which you're probably peeling off and tossing anyway. Once you get down to the good stuff in the center, it's clean, crisp, and ready for your favorite soup or slaw. Buying organic cabbage isn't harmful, but it's not especially helpful either. Now let me touch on one of the most common fruits in American homes: bananas. Whether you slice them into oatmeal, blend them in a smoothie, or eat them straight from the peel, bananas are everywhere. And that peel is key. It's thick, it's tough, and it keeps most pesticides out. Unless you're eating the peel, which very few people do, conventional bananas are a perfectly safe and affordable option. Last but not least for today, let's talk about wild game. Elk, venison, wild boar. These animals roam free, living off the land. You can't exactly walk up to a wild deer and feed it non-GMO corn. So when you see labels like organic wild game, it doesn't really mean anything. It sounds nice, but it's more of a buzzword than a benefit. If you or someone you know is lucky enough to get wild meat, be thankful. It's already about as natural as food gets. Now that we've walked through some of the foods you can safely skip the organic label on, you might be wondering, okay, so where should I spend that extra grocery money? Which foods really do need to be organic to protect my health? Because let's be honest, some foods are little chemical sponges, soaking up every spray and residue they're exposed to. That's where being choosy really counts. Let's take a closer look at those next. If you're still with me, then you probably care about making smart choices, not just at the store, but in how you care for your body, your energy, and your wallet. That's what this is really about. Because while skipping the organic label on some foods can help you save money without sacrificing your health, there are other foods where the organic version truly makes a difference, and not just a small one. I'm talking about your long-term health, your immune system, even your risk of certain chronic conditions. Let's start with peanuts. You might be surprised to see this one at the top of the list. I mean, how harmful can a peanut be, right? But here's the deal. Peanuts don't grow on trees like almonds or walnuts. They grow underground, right in the soil. And that makes them vulnerable to a nasty little thing called aflatoxin, a type of mold that thrives in warm, damp conditions. To fight that mold, conventional farmers often douse the fields with heavy fungicides and pesticides. And since peanut shells are thin and porous, those chemicals can seep right into the peanut you eat. That's why, when it comes to peanuts, whether you're eating them whole, as peanut butter, or in a snack, it really is worth choosing organic. You're not just avoiding synthetic chemicals. You're protecting your liver, your digestion, and potentially your long-term health. Now think about strawberries. They're sweet, juicy, and perfect on cereal or in a summer dessert. But unlike an avocado or a banana, strawberries have no protective skin. None. They're soft, delicate, and soak up everything sprayed on them like a sponge. The USDA has repeatedly ranked strawberries among the most pesticide-contaminated fruits in the country. Even after washing them, residue remains. So if strawberries are part of your weekly routine, and I know many folks love them for the antioxidants, go organic. That small change makes a big difference. Let's talk about coffee. For a lot of people, especially in retirement, that morning cup is one of the small joys of the day. Maybe you drink it black, maybe with a little cream and cinnamon, but most people don't know how much coffee is actually sprayed during farming. It's one of the most chemically treated crops in the world, especially in regions with tropical climates where pests and mold are a real problem. And since coffee beans are porous, those chemicals don't just sit on the surface. They penetrate. So when you're brewing that hot cup of joe in the morning, you could be brewing up more than just caffeine. Switching to organic coffee means cleaner beans and fewer toxins building up over time. And if you drink coffee every day, that adds up. Now, if you're a tea drinker, pay close attention. Tea, especially green and black teas from large commercial growers, is often heavily sprayed as well. And here's where it gets tricky. We usually steep tea leaves directly in hot water. That means whatever's on those leaves, chemical or not, goes straight into your cup. There's no peeling, no cooking, no rinsing. It just dissolves and you drink it. Organic tea, on the other hand, comes from plants grown without synthetic pesticides, which means fewer unwanted extras in your daily ritual. For something you sip slowly and regularly, that kind of purity is worth the few extra cents. Let's move on to something many people love, but don't realize is a hidden danger when conventionally grown. Chocolate. Or more specifically, cocoa. Like coffee and tea, cocoa is mostly grown in tropical climates with high humidity, perfect for fungus and pests. That's why conventional cocoa farms often use a cocktail of chemicals just to keep their crops going. And unfortunately, cocoa beans don't have thick skins. The chemicals used during farming can find their way into the final chocolate product, especially the darker kinds that are less processed. So if you enjoy a small square of chocolate after dinner, or maybe use cocoa powder in smoothies or baking, choosing organic is a safer and sweeter choice. Now let's talk about something you may not have considered before: cotton. Yes, cotton. You might be wondering, why does cotton matter in a food conversation? Well, think about this. Cotton isn't just used for clothing. It's used in personal hygiene products like tampons, cotton swabs, and baby wipes. The cotton industry is one of the heaviest users of pesticides in the world, and most of us never think twice about it. But when cotton is used in products that go in or on your body, especially sensitive areas, those chemicals matter. And when it comes to babies or anyone with sensitive skin, organic cotton can make a big difference in reducing irritation, allergic reactions, or even chemical absorption. It's something to keep in mind the next time you're shopping for personal care items or linens. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about spinach. It's often labeled as one of the healthiest greens out there. And it's true, it's loaded with nutrients like iron and folate. But spinach is also one of the most pesticide-contaminated vegetables on store shelves. It's a soft, leafy green, and there's no peel or skin to protect it. It's sprayed heavily to ward off bugs and disease. And because spinach is often eaten raw, in salads, smoothies, or sautéed lightly, the chemicals aren't destroyed by cooking. If spinach is part of your weekly meals, Go organic. Your liver and kidneys will thank you. Apples are another fruit that shows up often in studies on pesticide residue. It's not just the spray on the outside. Many apples are waxed to keep them looking shiny and fresh. And those waxes can trap pesticide residue underneath. Even if you wash them or wipe them down with a towel, a lot of that residue stays put. And while peeling the apple helps, you also lose much of the fiber and nutrients found in the skin. Going organic with apples allows you to eat the whole fruit, skin, and all without worrying about the chemical load. Now, let's talk grapes. These little guys are among the worst offenders for pesticide contamination. Think about it. They're small, delicate, and they grow in tight clusters, which makes them harder to spray evenly. So farmers spray more often. Whether you're eating them fresh, dried into raisins, or sipping on grape juice. If they're conventionally grown, you're likely getting a dose of chemicals along with the sweetness. Organic grapes may cost more per pound, but they offer peace of mind. Especially if you're buying for grandkids or making them part of your daily snack. Cherries fall into the same camp. No tough skin, no natural defense against pesticides. They absorb what's around them. And because they're often grown in areas where pests are a constant battle, they tend to be sprayed heavily. If you enjoy cherries in season, or even frozen or dried, organic is the way to go. Now here's where things get interesting. There are some foods, like wheat, oats, lentils, and other pulsism, that don't just get sprayed during the growing season. They get sprayed right before harvest. Why? Because of something called desiccation. Farmers spray a chemical, often glyphosate, better known as Roundup, to dry the plants quickly so they can harvest them faster. That means the grains and seeds soak up those chemicals right before being processed and packaged. Even if a label says non-GMO, that doesn't mean it's free of herbicides. Only the organic label guarantees that the food wasn't treated with synthetic sprays at any point. So if you eat oatmeal, lentil soup, barley bread, or use flour for baking, it's worth spending the extra $1 or $2 for organic. It's not about being perfect. It's about being informed. Knowing which foods are more likely to carry harmful residues allows you to make choices that support your health without breaking the bank. You don't need to overhaul your whole kitchen overnight. But when you do reach for that bag of spinach or those bright red cherries, you'll know why that little organic label is worth it. It's funny, isn't it? For years we've been told, just eat your fruits and vegetables. And that's still good advice. But now the choices have become more complicated. Organic, non-GMO, pesticide-free, hydroponic. Sometimes it feels like you need a degree in agriculture just to get through the produce section. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be intentional. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern. The foods that need to be organic are usually the ones with soft skins, no natural barrier, or the ones that are heavily sprayed and not peeled before eating. And the ones you can feel more relaxed about? They're often the ones with hard shells, thick skins, or grown in ways that don't require much chemical treatment to begin with. Once you learn to see that pattern, grocery shopping becomes a whole lot simpler. And I want to emphasize this. It's not about being perfect. It's not about throwing out everything in your pantry or worrying about every bite you take. It's about making smarter choices where they count most. Little changes over time can lead to a stronger immune system, less inflammation, and better long-term health. Now there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to share with you. And it has to do with something that often trips people up. The difference between organic and non-GMO. On the surface, they might seem similar, but they're not. When something is labeled non-GMO, that simply means it hasn't been genetically modified. It says nothing about pesticides or herbicides. So a non-GMO grain or vegetable could still be sprayed with all kinds of chemicals during and even after growth. Organic, on the other hand, covers more ground. It means no synthetic chemicals, no GMOs, no artificial fertilizers, and often better farming practices overall. Let's take wheat as an example. Many people now look for non-GMO wheat products. That's fine, but it doesn't guarantee that the wheat wasn't sprayed with glyphosate just days before harvest. That same glyphosate, yes, the one that's been linked to health risks in repeated studies, can still be present in your loaf of bread or bowl of cereal. If you want to avoid that entirely, organic is the label that matters more. This is especially important for foods you eat regularly. Your daily oatmeal, your toast in the morning, the lentils in your soup, or the flour in your pancakes. The more often you eat it, the more meaningful those small exposures become over time. Choosing organic for those staple items is one of the most impactful decisions you can make for your health. And yes, it's okay to start small. Maybe you just switch to organic apples and oats this month. Next month, maybe it's peanut butter and spinach. You don't have to do it all at once. But every swap brings you closer to reducing your chemical exposure and giving your body the clean fuel it deserves. Especially now, when our bodies aren't quite as quick to recover as they were at 30. And here's something else to remember. Buying organic doesn't have to mean shopping at the most expensive health food stores. More and more mainstream grocery stores are offering affordable organic options. Farmers markets often sell produce that's grown without chemicals, even if it's not certified organic. Just ask. And if you're on a tight budget, frozen organic fruits and veggies are often cheaper than fresh and just as nutritious. It's all about working with what you have and making the best choices available to you. Now let's bring it all together. 13 foods you don't need to buy organic because their natural structure, growing conditions, or lack of chemical exposure makes them safe as they are. That's your salt, your coconuts, your bananas, your wild-caught salmon, your baking soda, and those hardy nuts with their tough shells. These are the places where you can save your money and still eat confidently. And then 10 foods where organic really matters. Peanuts, strawberries, coffee, tea, spinach, apples, grapes, cherries, chocolate, and grain-based foods like oats, wheat, and lentils. These are the foods that are either soaked in pesticides, easily absorb chemicals, or are used so frequently in your diet that even small doses of residue can add up. When you think about it, this kind of knowledge is a form of self-care. It's about saying, I want to feel good. I want to be sharp and energized and pain-free for as long as I possibly can. And that doesn't mean chasing expensive trends or fad diets. It just means getting smarter about what's on your plate. You've taken care of others your whole life. You've been the parent, the grandparent, the caregiver, the one who cooked the meals and did the grocery runs. Now it's time to give some of that same care and attention back to yourself. You deserve to feel strong, energized, and clear-headed, not bogged down by fatigue, inflammation, or digestive troubles that may stem from the foods you're eating every day. So here's what I want you to take away from this video. You don't need to fear food. You don't need to obsess or overthink. But you do deserve clarity. You deserve to know what matters and what doesn't. And when you know the difference, you can shop smarter, eat better, and live stronger. And I'd love to hear from you. What foods have you started buying organic? Are there any you've changed your mind about after watching this? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your experience might help someone else make a better decision too. If this video helped you feel more confident, more empowered, or just a little more informed, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like more videos that support your health, energy, and independence as you age, hit that subscribe button and join our community here at Strong Elderly Life. We're in this together. Aging doesn't mean giving up control over your health or your happiness. In fact, it's the perfect time to take it back. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it. And here's to living your best life at any age.